They can't hide it anymore. And so now even their own two-faced nature is starting to contort their inner souls, and they have to deal with it.
It's going to be a bloodbath. The blue states that we have held for many decades, at this point, it's debatable if Biden can lead our nation.
Everyone is admitting Joe Biden is going to lose, even George Stephanopoulos, the man who sat down with him to try to rehabilitate his image after the debate took place with Trump. Colin Rugg grabbed this clip that was originally captured by TMZ, saying that George Stephanopoulos was running around in New York getting his steps in. You can see this is what he looks like out there, getting his steps in or whatever he's doing. He answered this question. Somebody came up to him and said, hey, George, you spent a lot of time with the president. What do you think of his competency? Any response to that? George did respond. Here's what it sounded like.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, how you doing? Good. What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you could be honest. Serve 4 more years. You don't think he can serve 4 more years? All right, that's an answer.
All right, doesn't think he can serve 4 more years. Oh no. Well, he could have told us that after his debate, after his interview rather. He could have said, well, America, after our 22-minute debate, I'd like to share my thoughts with you after having spent our time together. Here is my perception of this, and as a journalist, I feel it's imperative to tell you my take on it or something like that, I guess. Or he can just fake like he's impartial or something. Just let the people decide. Okay, with his edited interview. He admits it. George Stephanopoulos, as we know, is just a good Democrat errand boy, has been doing their bidding forever, made a ton of money on the back of doing that, and probably not going to tell you how he really feels to the public on his cable news show. But it was him. This was confirmed. CNN was also talking about it. So they brought on this fella who I think still hangs out at the snack center at CNN headquarters. But Brian Stelter was out. They were talking about this. George Stephanopoulos was caught on a secret recorded hidden camera. And he admits that Joe Biden has dementia and he can't serve another 4 years. So what do you think?
George Stephanopoulos, the ABC anchor who just interviewed President Biden last Friday in a really high stakes interview, he was stopped by it seems TMZ and asked, you've talked to him more than anybody else. Should Biden step down? And then he said, I don't think he can serve 4 more years. That's pretty stunning.
It is. Now, of course, George has come out and said, I shouldn't have said that. And ABC says, that's not the opinion of the network, it's just his opinion. But his opinion matters because he's the outsider that spent he's one of the outsiders, one of the few outsiders.
George said, I shouldn't have said that. CNN said, that's not the opinion of ours. Brian's right. It kind of does matter. Like, that's the point of all of this, is we want to see how the president does. You want to challenge him. And the person who's in the room with him, you want to kind of get their take on it. Wouldn't it be nice if George came out and said, listen, look, I sat down with him. And well, honestly, Tucker did this when he met with Putin. Tucker had multiple interviews after his conversation with Putin where he explained what he thought happened. Hey, what the hell happened in there? This is what happened. I was there for 2.5 hours, even longer than that, right? They just like shoved him in a room. They made him wait. It was this big psychological test and all this stuff. He walked us through the whole thing. And we got to understand what it was like to interview the man. And if you're trying to gauge how that person operates, that's something that is relevant to the story. And if you're a journalist trying to bring truth to America, like George Stephanopoulos alleges to be, then shouldn't we get some analysis on that from him? Or should he just answer a couple questions like a dumb robot and just move on?
To have spent time with the president recently. I think, Abby, there's a lot of people who feel they've been conned. People who feel they've been fooled by this White House. And you wonder about some journalists who feel...
And you and CNN. Okay, you people who for the last 4 years, 5 years longer than that, said Joe Biden's amazing, he's vigorous, he's great.
That way as well.
They're talking about it. Yes, they're all feeling conned by you. George Stephanopoulos is conned. Now they're real. Like, I think the reason why they're admitting this stuff is because it is their conscience that's bursting out of at the seams. They can't hide it anymore, right? They had plausible deniability for some time. They just said, well, no, I mean, everybody else says he's great and he kind of did okay at that State of the Union. So we'll just, he's fine. time, right? They can't hide it anymore. And so now even their own two-faced nature is starting to contort their inner souls, and they have to deal with it. So they're having to reconcile the okay, yeah. He's like, it's probably George's first person he's probably told. Can you believe it, right? He's probably just like bursting. He's like, I have to talk to somebody. He can't even talk to his therapist. He can't even talk to DC, all his friends at his cocktail party. So some dude on the street, he's like, oh gosh, I'm just going to tell this guy. Yes, Joe Biden can't serve another 4 years. Don't tell anybody. Guys from TMZ puts it on the internet immediately. Spread all over the news. He's like, God damn it. Ugh! But it was probably very relieving for him. Alleviating. Oh gosh, I finally got to tell someone. So then now Stelter's talking about it. He's like, I thought we fired that guy. Oh yeah, he's at a different network. All right. So anyways, there is panic in the air. You can see Carly Bonnie grabbed this one from Morning Joe. Morning Joe was posting this one this morning. Says that they're just freaked. All right. Morning Mika, the star of the show, of the Joe Brzezinski show, is out walking us through. They're still panicked. They're still like, we got to get Joe out of here. They're like, yes, Joe made a decision to stay, but we need you to reconsider that, Joe. So here they're just slamming him with the constant hysterics of the left.
I spent the week hearing from my constituents about their strong concerns
in New Jersey
about prosecuting the case against Donald Trump. I heard from people concerned about the Supreme Court decisions, concerned about abortion, women's reproductive health, and just advocating as strongly as possible that we have someone that can really take that case strongly and energetically to the voters.
Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill there, Allie, and you were at that meeting yesterday, so I'll go to you with this notion. I think two things can be true at once, and I think a lot of Democrats are being very transparent about this notion that they're acting Trumpy and saying nothing to see here. I don't see that. I see a lot of Democrats saying he had a terrible debate. Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire, terrible night, but Donald Trump had a horrific presidency. And that's where I think Democrats should focus in on, because they're being self-destructive if they just tear President Biden down, but they don't offer an alternative. And right now, the alternative is Donald Trump. So if they have questions about Joe Biden's ability to run on this campaign, and a lot of them do, and the questions after the debate, are clear. They're very clear, and people have made them. What happened? Was it a one-off? Was it episodic? Everyone is asking that question. No one is hiding and pretending nothing happened. We all saw it. Kind of hard to avoid. Yeah. So having said that, he also has a record that is historic. He also has a lot of things to say about why he should perhaps remain on this campaign. And he also is raising a lot of questions. But the opponent right now is Donald Trump. The opponent right now is...
All right, so she's just going to go. I get what I think her argument, if you boil it down with all, just turn the volume down like a lot and make it less painful. The root argument, the crux, is that their guy's very bad, but the other guy is worse. That's it. And I think people are going to have to put those two comparisons on a screen side by side and make an analysis and ask themselves whether that's true. Oh, wait, we had a debate. We saw. Yeah, we got to do that. And guess what? People made their decision. So she can ask for, I guess, that comparison to continue. The problem for them is that their candidate is going to continue to evaporate right in front of our very eyes as the months go by. That's Mika. Now, other people on the left are just saying, look, it's done. All right, this is Rishi Kumar. He is a DNC delegate. He's saying Biden's got to get the hell out of here, okay? We're all going to die. It's going to be a bloodbath. And by the way, bloodbath is an illegal term now. So hopefully he's being investigated by the feds as we speak.
Yes. So, essentially, if Biden ends up running, potentially
he is
the
now.
Democrats could lose the Senate, the House, and the White House. And it's going to be...
That's what we're talking... Yes, perfect. That's why we support Joe as the Democratic nominee.
A bloodbath. The blue states
what did he
that
say?
We have held for...
I almost interrupted.
It's going to be a bloodbath. The blue states that we have held for many decades might potentially turn red. Trump is doing well when he runs against Biden in those states.
A whole political
and then
realignment,
the swing
baby.
states,
Let's
the battleground
go.
states, they are looking terrible. So at this point, all the polling indicates that Trump is going to win. So we need to send the best and the brightest out there to run against Trump. He's beatable, but we need to send somebody who's got the energy of a commander-in-chief. Here in Silicon Valley, we have had great leaders and companies thrive because of good leaders. At this point, it's debatable if Biden can lead our nation. Carrying the nuclear football is a huge deal, and they're not sure right now if Biden is going to be able to do his job.
Yikes.
Yes.
Okay, so that's a DNC delegate. I think we know where that guy's going. Okay, he's not going to be voting for Joe Biden at the DNC convention, but he's not the only one hitting the panic button. This is another one from a Democratic senator. His name is Michael Bennet. He was on with Caitlin Collins, and he's saying, yeah, Biden's not going to win on this thing. So
my colleague Dana Bash reported that you, Senator John Tester, and Senator Sherrod Brown all said during that lunch that you don't think President Biden can win in 2024. Is that true?
Well, it's true that I said that, and I did say that behind closed doors, and you guys and others asked whether I'd said it, and that is what I said. So
okay.
I figured I should come here and say it publicly.
Why do you think he can't win in November?
I just think this race is on a trajectory that is very worrisome if you care about the future of this country. Joe Biden was 9 points up at this time. The last time he was running, Hillary Clinton was 5 points up. This is the first time in more than 20 years that a Republican president has been up in this part of the campaign. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election and maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I see right now a lot of different comments on X. In fact, we might see some of them right here in this X thread where they just say, stop looking at the polls. Okay, stop looking at the polls. Everybody just stop looking at the polls. Which is interesting to hear from the lefts because they're always usually saying the polls are amazing and look at the polls, look at the polls. So to see them flip on that, it's usually our side that's saying the polls are not trustworthy. And I still think that the polls are not trustworthy, but they do get trends, right? So as a predictive value, I don't know that they're accurate. For example, the Hillary Clinton polls, those were obviously inaccurate and Trump won. We said the polls were wrong. Polls were wrong. The Biden polls, they had him winning. We saw that entire election was rigged. So those can just go right in the toilet, meaning I don't trust those polls either. So these polls, I also don't trust, but they certainly show a trend. And the fact that they are trending this way, I think, is them hitting the panic button that something needs to be done about this or else. Here, this is the Biden mess. Punchbowl News, this guy, Jake Sherman, was reporting. He says, Democrats have always prided themselves on their unity, right? Like they're good communists. They fall back in line, which they have, basically. I mean, they've fallen back in line. If you look at it as a percentage, only a small percentage of them are actually saying anything about it. The rest of them are just cowards, and they just sit back there and they just do whatever the party tells them to do. As long as they'll get their money and their endorsements, they can get their offices back, they can have their little social media accounts and whatever, they'll just shut their mouths and just follow the rules. So now they say they've lost all semblance of togetherness. Yeah, it's hard to have unity when you're on a losing team, right? Here are some new details that came out from the Biden HQ during the debate. They were apparently losing themselves. One watch party with campaign staff and pro-Biden influencers was losing it. One person laid down on the floor despondent. Okay, one person just like laid down. Any idea who that could be? I have a couple ideas. If I had to guess, it's probably either George Conway or Reid Hoffman, just due to their physicality. They feel like the types of people, just based on their size and scope, that would just lay down on the floor, probably. I could just see George Conway just like just kind of melting into the ground like the T-1000. But when the debate's video feed, or Reid Hoffman too, for sure, kind of turn into like probably like canola oil or something. When the debate's video feed was temporarily interrupted, one person blurted out, said, "Oh, thank God." And then laid down on the ground. Here's what you can see between the lines. The internal fallout from the debate was made worse by the White House's senior leadership appearing not to realize how deeply their own aides were impacted. They're like, what? This is our president? By watching Biden's meandering performance in Atlanta. At the Biden campaign headquarters in Wilmington, about 24 Biden staffers and pro-Biden influencers gathered for a watch party the night of the debate. As the president fumbled several answers, one person stood up, then laid down on the floor, despondent, according to a person in the room. When the debate's video feed was temporarily interrupted, one person shouted, "Oh, thank God." Biden campaign spokesman told Axios, here in HQ, we're working really hard. We have a lot of pride here. How some Biden aides reacted in real time while watching the debate. Someone said, "Is he okay?" Someone said, "I'm numb." Sincere concern. Is he okay? A Biden aide texted another during the debate. Yeah, he's fine. This is who he is. This is your president. Hello, where have you been? Another Biden staffer recalled that given the president's energetic State of the Union, which he just screamed a lot on meth, said, "I was convinced before the debate that Biden would clean the floor with Trump." It's like, oh man. I have so many concerns for our country. If this was their observational capacity, you have to question their judgment on anything. It's like, okay, if you thought that was reality, How do you think this works? And just like show them anything. Just show them like a puzzle or can you put this together? Can you move this thing? Here, put this round peg in this round hole. Can you do that? We should go back to the basics on this stuff. Where do these blocks go? Okay, you can pass that test, then maybe we'll talk about the next level. Now, I was convinced that he would clean the floor with him. That staffer added that some members of their family are panicky Democrats who've been convinced for a while that Biden was too old to run, and I'd been the one defending him. He's fine. I had to reckon in real time with them that I thought that they were right. Oh man, that sucks for them. Now, another Biden aide said that they felt numb. A final Biden aide summed it up this way. He says it was in effect the realization of every worst case scenario that we could possibly fathom. And that's where we're at. So here is the Biden White House saying, oh no, State Department says we're fully transparent. We've been telling you everything. Joe's great.
As you know, the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that back in June of 2022, Secretary of State Blinken went to a meeting with the German chancellor instead of President Biden, saying the president had to go to bed.
Yeah, nap
You
time.
denied that, but can you say the Biden administration has been fully transparent about the toll the president's age is apparently taking?
Of course we have been, and I can tell you with respect to that report, it was absolutely not true.
Joe Biden need a little nappy time, and so they're dealing with it. And there's a bunch of people saying they love him. Here's this woman.
A CHIP Act that created jobs and research. This touches all of the individuals out there for what they want. I've not heard one person say, here's a candidate. We don't want Joe Biden, but here's a candidate that can beat Donald Trump. There's not a candidate out there in this window of time.
I think that's
President
right.
Biden is our best candidate
she's right.
to be able to beat Donald Trump. And
She's
that should be our number one goal, to beat Donald Trump.
She's right. Joe Biden, honestly, actually the polls I think even show that too, that there aren't any other candidates. I saw some other headlines that everybody loses even by more. Joe Biden's about as close as it gets. So they have to stick with him. They should. Joe Biden is extremely representative of the Democrats in every way, shape, and form. And so he's their best candidate. And we're excited to see him become the nominee and to vote against him in November.